As we prepare to enter 2024, farmers might be looking to new opportunities in the farmland market, and buying land is perhaps the biggest decision producers can make with respect to their operation as well as their legacy. Roger McEowen with the Washburn School of Law joins us now with some considerations to keep in mind. Good to have you with us, Roger. Hope you had a great Christmas. So what are some of the main factors farmers need to be aware of when it comes to land?
Well, good to be with you, Tammy. And of course, price is the primary consideration in most transactions. But there are factors in addition to price that I think are really important, and they do bear on the deal that you get. First thing I would suggest is make sure that you account for any improvements that will be needed to buildings and fences and drainage tile and those types of things. That can be very expensive if you miss that one. Also, check the watershed and potential changes. If we have changes to a watershed or we got drainage district issues, you want to be aware of those. And of course, an easy way to check on that, first of all, is whether the land is in a drainage district to begin with. Is there a possibility for an endangered species habitat designation, or is any of the land in a habitat designation area? Now, that's going to be a bigger issue in certain parts of the country compared to others, but that's a big issue. Related to that, is there an old dump site on the property that could cause environmental questions later on? Are there any government contracts on the property, such as CRP or easements, that would affect value to the property in terms of what you can realize from the economic potential of the property? Is the land leased to a tenant? Is there an existing tenant on the premises? And if so, has that tenancy been terminated? Because if it hasn't, simply buying the land will not terminate an existing lease. And then is there a subsurface tenant if we're dealing with oil and gas parts of the country? You might have a surface tenant and a subsurface tenant. So check your available public records, ask questions of the current owner, ask questions of neighbors. That's always a good thing to do. And of course, physically inspect the property before you buy it.
So many things to keep in mind there, but that's good advice because it is a major investment. So switching gears just a little bit, about 40% of all farmland is leased according to USDA, and a requirement of good husbandry is a part of all ag leases. So what all does that entail?
Well, that means that the tenant just can't mismanage the property. It's tied to the duty of not committing waste on the property. And so there's no statute that a state has in terms of what defines good husbandry. It's based on common law and so court cases over the years. But basically, the tenant has to farm in accordance with normal accepted farming practices. And so you want to stay within the norm of what the farming practices are in that particular area. And if the tenant is simply, if their practices are affected by weather, couldn't get a crop out of the ground on time, that's not going to give you a basis to terminate them based on waste of the property, because that's something beyond the tenant's control. But if we get into situations where they're clearly not maintaining weeds, they're not farming with acceptable farming practices from a conservation standpoint, and we have those things specified, of course, in a written lease as to what the expectations are, that can even bolster your argument that the tenant has committed waste and is not farming in accordance with good husbandry practices.
So any final words for farmers and ranchers as we close the door on 2023?
Well, pay attention to economics as we go into 2024. Plus, there are a few things that they might be able to still do on their 2023 tax return, even after the year ends. And so if we have deferred payment contracts, or we want to farm income average, or maybe make that estimated tax payment on January 15 so that we can push the due date for the farm return to April 15, with run up in interest rates, you can save quite a bit of money by a 6-week deferral on payment from March 1 to April 15. By just making one estimated payment. So just some things to think about here at the end of the year.
Oh, some good advice there. That's Roger McEowen with the Washburn School of Law. Appreciate your time and Happy New Year to you.